The next item is item number 5, application for a certificate of appropriateness in the Borough of Manhattan, docket number 15-1306, block 552, lots 22 and 24, 33 to 36 Washington Square West, in the Greenwich Village Historic District, a neo-federal style apartment hotel designed by C.F. Winkelman and built in 1929. This is an application to replace windows.
And for the record, Commissioner Bland is recused and has left the hearing room.
Good morning, Commissioners. Michelle Sharani with Restoration Staff. The application before you is 33-36 Washington Square West, which is located at the corner of Washington Place in the Greenwich Village Historic District. The application is for the restoration of historic windows at the ground floor and building-wide removal of historic windows. There are steel windows at the annex, and modern replacement windows that are illegal at the tower, adjacent tower, and the installation of thermally insulated aluminum multi-phase windows within the opening, featuring an applied muntin to replicate the profile of historic steel windows. The second component is the removal of multi-pane windows at the interior court. Here, and the installation of metal tripartite casement windows without a muntin in those openings. The top portion of the courtyard elevation is visible from a great distance along 6th Avenue, as shown on the last page of your packet. The architect, Juan Matisse, of Matisse Architecture and Design, is here to discuss the proposal.
Michelle? Good morning. So as Michelle stated,
Name on the record, please.
Juan Matisse, Matisse Architecture.
Okay, thank you.
So this is the designation photograph from 1969, and the building is the one that you see starting here. This is an annex building which was built originally in the 1955, and the university had this hotel building which is at the corner of Washington Place and the west side of the park. The buildings were combined in 1955, when in fact this building was built, and the steel windows that that building has today were then replicating the hotel building at the corner. So the building at the time of designation did have the same type of steel profile windows as are here at the building today in the annex portion of the building. This is the view of the building from the corner, and the annex building is a shorter 9-story building with the 17-story building next door to it entering that corner of the park. We're located here on the west side of the park. It's today used as a dormitory for freshmen, known as Hayden Falls. And the work is to replace, the proposed work is to replace the windows on the entire building. Today, the windows have been replaced, as Michelle mentioned, illegally, from the 2nd story to the top of the 17-story building. And those windows would be replaced with a similar type, an aluminum window, that would be for the entire building to reunify the building cohesively. This is the facade along the park. You can see the annex building and the tower at the corner. I'll show you closer photographs of these windows here, but essentially the steel windows exist on the annex, and they were replaced in the early 70s with a new aluminum window on the tower. The inside courtyard of the building is sort of a large L-shaped, U-shaped plan. There is a courtyard which has a series of layers of construction materials from the sort of history of the building. You have glazed brick, you have aluminum cladding, you have an exhaust system for a dining hall, which is on the ground floor. And really none of this is really visible from the street, as you'll see shortly, except the top of the building is visible from the south. What we also did was treat the side elevations as primary elevations. In fact, they are highly visible. The building's mass makes it visible from large areas of the content. So it's not, we're not treating just the street front facades, but also the returns as primary elevations in the window replacement strategy. The proposed simplification of the windows in the courtyard is to reduce the maintenance component and a little bit of the cost for the windows. In fact, they're not visible from the street, but they would operate in a safer manner, have less optical parts, etc., from the dorm use. Here's a view on Washington Place of the Washington Place facade, and then the return, which again, we're treating as a primary elevation, as you can see here. And you can see some west to east views of that portion of the building. Here you see a photograph from 1956 during the construction of the annex building, which does have the original windows. And in here, we zoomed in and shown you that, in fact, the windows were similar in their construction at the original time with the intention of the building. But the university, sometime between 69 and 79, no records exist, the windows were replaced, as Michelle mentioned, illegally, and therefore what we're looking to do is propose to return the character of the building's windows by having the windows be closer into what the annex has now, which have the muntins which project as a cantilever out and cast a shadow line which the facade has lost in the replaced windows in the tower which you see here. So in fact, what we're looking to do is return the character of the original buildings, as you can see from this photograph. In their operability, the muntins will not be true since these were single glazed windows, and we're doing an applied muntin with that projecting shadow line so that we actually unify the building and bring back the original character for the building, which was in the 50s up until the early 70s. On the ground floor, all of the windows that you see here will be restored. There are the original on both buildings, in fact. So when the windows were replaced in the 70s, the ground floor did retain the original windows. In fact, those are really wonderful steel profiles with, you can see the assembly and the paint has gone into the reveals, etc. But they're wonderful. So those will be removed and replaced in their original location. There's a schedule. The 35 or so % of the windows will be like these, which is the courtyard. But the restored windows are double hung here, and all of these will be tied for the entire annex and tower, with the exception of the courtyard. The profile changes are, as you can see here, to reintroduce that profile that casts a shadow on the exterior, which was lost with a very flat element of the windows that were replaced in the early 70s. So we will be bringing that one position back in an aluminum profile here. The restored windows, again, the strategy is to remove them and reinstall them all in their existing masonry openings. The large wide-angle views of the building, all of the facades that are visible from the street, be it from the park or from the south. You can see here, this is from the corner of West 3rd and 6th Avenue. So we're located somewhere here with respect to the building. You can only see a portion of the tower and the top 2 or 3 stories and see that top over there. So the windows really in the courtyard are only visible from this distance, and you barely recognize even some of the detailing on it. But once you start working even further south, they become shielded by all of the front and the lower scale buildings here, and then eventually the building just disappears. So in fact, from this general area is the only time that you actually get a view of those windows in the upper portion of the building.
Okay. Questions, anyone?
For the principal facades, did you consider new rolled steel windows, which would have a thinner mountain closer to the original?
Yes, obviously the university did look at that. Since the volume, we're talking about 734 windows. When you look at the differential, it's a substantial cost differential for the types of windows that you're mentioning. Their goal is to eliminate all the single pane windows, which basically both buildings have now, improve the safety component also, and the thermal qualities of the windows. They would love to, well, not as cheaply as possible, but within a more acceptable cost value than what would have cost to do this.
Okay. Thank you. Testimony, Barbara Zay.
Barbara Zay of the Historic Districts Council. This building occupies a prominent spot on the northwest corner of Washington Square Park, necessitating a very close look at proposed window replacements. Though not the worst window replacements ever presented to the Commission, these rather bulky extruded aluminum windows are to replace the existing steel casement windows. HDC asks that rather than replacing all of the windows at once, a huge job for a building this size, that casement windows be installed in a phased approach. HDC suggests the use of thermally broken rolled steel windows, which would be slightly thicker than the existing steel windows, but less thick than the proposed aluminum. This option supports thicker insulated glass, making it a sustainable choice and worth the extra cost in the long run. Thank you.
Okay. Landmarks Public Aesthetics Committee, Community Board 2, unanimously recommends approval of the application. Okay. Anyone else? Anything else to add?
Not at this time, thank you.
Okay.
Well, I seem to remember that we have seen aluminum replacements for steel casements that had nicer profiles, smaller, or simulated true divided lights. So I would just urge the applicant, I think that and I guess also there is the issue of why are we replacing these windows necessarily if we don't know that they're in bad condition. We do allow, actually do allow for that kind of thing on a regular basis. And as long as integral to the design is in some other buildings where that kind of preservation might be more critical. So I think I'd be okay with allowing the replacement. And I think I would encourage them to do it once simply so that it doesn't have a off-the-shelter appearance. But I would ask them to look and work with staff to try to find a better window option for the true light light that was closer to the profile of the existing.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it's appropriate and will actually add to the appearance of the building. And I think a couple other suggestions that the staff can look at to ascertain the best way to do it. But I just think this is
Chris?
Yeah, if there is a better window, then otherwise fine.
Michael?
I agree with Commissioner Goldwyn's assessment.
Okay. Joan?
I do as well. If we can find something that's better quality, then, we really should go for it.
Okay. If you would do that, we'll close the hearing. Motion second, approved. Michael Goldblum.
Regarding 3336 Washington Square West, the Greenwich Village Historic District, the application to replace the windows I recommend approval. Finding that the existing historic windows are in a deteriorating condition, and that the remaining historic steel windows were installed without received permits, which do not match the details or operations of the originals. Therefore, the wholesale replacement of windows throughout the buildings will not result in the elimination of the historic fabric. The proposed multi-light steel aluminum windows, multi-light aluminum windows, will be in keeping with the historic steel windows found at the same elevation and elsewhere in each of buildings in terms of material, configuration, operation, and finish. That the proposal will restore uniform fenestration treatment to the two buildings' primary facades. That the proposed windows will maintain the proportions and casement operation of the historic windows. That the window proposed configuration which will retain the transom, the same number of lights, and the placement of vertical framing members will match the configuration of the historic windows. And although the framing proposed windows will be slightly larger than the historic window framing, the profiles and proportions of the panes will closely recall the details and proportions of the historic windows. That the simple casement windows without buttons will be limited to undeveloped courtyard and secondary facades and will only be seen great distances, that the double-hung multi-light steel windows at the ground floor with special mounts and details will be retained and restored, and that the proposed work will not detract the special architectural and historic character of the Greenwich Village Historic District. However, the applicant will work with staff to identify a higher quality window that is closer in detail to the originals and that has a simulated true divided light extending to the interior of the building.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Approved. Thank you.